Demba, Jim Dan, Dijan, Java, Dajan, Bayana, Zobel, Sanja, Ribata, Shavan, Demba, Devarisha, Jidin, Jamba, Jivan, Deva, Halo, Jivana, Tada, Mena, Jedamba, Sanja, Jim Dan, Beyawa, Shaja, Toba, La Chasa, no Jado, Jado, Kanze, Kanye, Zovo, Jedam, Sajan, Dema, Mane, Jidin, Dena, Georges, Tezekeva, Joma, Saha, Namda, Goma, Jodo, 一些家族社交风波着，台湾阶段什么？我们说你叫嘛查，怎么真正怎么全面的？相当着我叫嘛查，怎么就这讲的是个什么？也没听见叫嘛查，怎么广播图这些的？他们这前边短报部说那么有点讲是，以前想了查怎么他们在下去，因为俺说来这些阶段他们说就，新就叫嘛查怎么真的这个。拉巴塔拉拉的那性别他们有的，印度那也查什么对吧？这样的这，有啊，比如说我这让给生的样子，天天上街单把烟干嘛着不了嘛？有嘛这个去不了当，没弄到的这的，有些像那么的，但是到像那么的也他们这些，可望他们那经济大对的，拿当去了那个，随便说能着完着我来说。
To the teacher, the blessed one. Full destroyer, completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the secure from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, full destroyer, completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, subdue from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya land, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When supreme among humans you were born on this earth, so said and strive and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise then I prostrate. With pure bodies formed supremely pure, wisdom motion like golden mountain, fame that blazes in the three worlds, nevertheless to you I prostrate. With supreme signs, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, the three worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the teacher having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like vast ocean, to you the one godlessness I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the lower realms, the one fact, sublime pure reality, to the Dharma which pacifies I prostrate. Those who are liberated and also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you the sublime community intending virtue I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star and mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain their full sleep. Subdue the full faults, and be delivered from the ocean of suffering, of aging, sickness, and death.
Sanje Chono Sojo Chono no Chanjo Bodo Dagin Cheso Jibe Sono Ji Androla Peche Sanje Sanje Chono Sojo Chono no Chanjo Bodo Dagin Cheso Jibe Sono Ji Androla Peche Sanje
I go for refuge until I know to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, to the merit I create by practicing giving and the other professions. May I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I know to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections. May I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections. May I quickly attain the state of Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Ponje Mala Cha Zono Deda Sanje Chum Dende and then the Shisha Banda Chuma Yanda Mazu Sanje Ripata Chum the Resha Banjin Jamba Jubon de Hano Jubana Hada Melan Jamba Sanje Chum Dende so and the Shisha Badi Zono Judu Gevezawa Namachumizava Suvera to Jamba Sonam Jetera and the Pesha Saman Chanam Jemado Jeba Juyere Matuma Tona Medu Shero Sijam Medu Watona Zeva Meba Simjatam Jitama Chandu Sambata Jab Pave Hazana Jeva Yangana Deva Tranjeta Jovan Shepada Meba Baba Sanja Sunamata Yanya Maguja Dava Chomejabo Toma Meba Vata Mago Soda Genya Sumata Matu Lungana number to Pumata and number to Konanda Medemba Jaja Namanda Vana Shenda Yosu Sivalia to what you want and give a Yonzo to Deba to Majaba, Sanjay Jim and the Jishin of Neb. Yamela de Vala Medava Yanda Vanija Talan de Simjatam Jetta, Simjatam Jetta, Siva Sala, Shuba de and the Danda Sanjay Jim and the Kuchi Vay, the Yanda Namus. Tavision of Toma gave a Padu gave a Toma gave a to hundreds of Madeva Yonzo to Yonzo Chamanya Tabatoma never to check on Mevanya, they don't want to you. Kevana Joso Ranga Ribachu, Jimda de Jada was to be children, one of the Manja Vachu, Miduma mentioned the water, the Batema, you were Jabachabo, Tabachan back into the Tabashu, Tamashu, Tamashu, Tamaja, the Jabachaja, the Jabas, Tamaja, the Jabachaja, the Jabas on the Japiji, years of Juma Jabachibana, Jubakundo, Jimenez, Jabachambo. Kanzea Ganye, so what Chatham suggested the combative managed the churches. Tezekabajana, Chatelo. So today, we're going to read from the commentary. Illuminating the intent of what I've said. So chapter, what is that? We are on the sixth Bhumi. Sixth Bhumi. Yeah, we finished the fifth ground. Now the sixth Bhumi. Within the sixth Bhumi, sixth Bhumi is talking about the, let's say, jungle.
It's on chapter 8. The manifest.
Manifest. So manifest. So kind of manifest the true manifestation of the perfection of the wisdom. So, so within the perfection of wisdoms, particularly, it's talking about the perfection of wisdom, which is the realization of the absence of intrinsic existence, So then there's an argument from the law school, like medieval autonomous schools and minority schools. So I think below the Prasangika schools, they all kind of agree on this intrinsic nature in the phenomena. So because of this intrinsic nature, so that everything is inherently exist. So the law school thinks that everything is inherently exists. If things do not exist inherently, if things do not have any intrinsic nature, then things cannot exist because there is no identity of any entity. There's no identity of the time of the past, present, futures. There is no identity of the cause and effect. There is no identity of the past life and this life and the future life, because nothing inherent exists means to them it is, things are not identifiable. Right? Things are not identifiable because there is no any, the identified unit, identified unit or single identified unit. So if there is a single identified unit, then you can say this is the present, this is the past, this is the future, this is the cause, this is the effect. So they all agree saying that, things should be exist inherently.
And this is the Vaibhashika, right? Or,
Yeah,
okay.
Vaibhashika school, Somatic school, minority school, middle autonomous school. If the decision is made by vote, and then we have to follow the intrinsic natures. So so the Prasangika school says, because of this, believing in intrinsic nature, and they tend to think that, barley sprout is different from the barley seed, and the present is different from the past, and this life is different from the past life. So your this life is different from your previous life. So in the morning, you are different from the noon yourself. Noon yourself is different from the evening yourself. So these are different because these all happening in a different time, right? And there's a different times, different conditions. So now the Prasangika school says, the differential of the cause and effect. So it just made up your kind of, so it's just a made up idea. So this, the believing in the cause and effect as a different entity or different phenomena is against the conventional world. It against the conventional world. So the conventional world means conventionally, mundanely, ordinarily, it is very much accepted. So no different, because the when you plant the seed of the tree, and when the tree grows from that seed, and the person who has planted the seed will pointing to the trees, I plant this. If the seed and sprout are different, and he cannot say, pointing at the tree, I plant this. He did not put the tree in the soil. He just simply put the seed, and then this happened. So which means in his mind, the tree that grows from the seed he has planted is no different from that seed. So the father who planted the seed in the mother's womb and give birth of the son, and the father is claimed that this is my son, right? So So which means that in the conventional world, so they do not really see it as cause and effect as a different. So any continuity is, anything that continues from something is not necessarily different from that. And then the further they're saying that, if cause and effect are two different things, so normally we say, so the table and the chair is the different. Orange and blue are different, right? So tomato and orange are different, and cow and horse different. So similarly, you also see this kind of exactly the same. Barley seed and the sprout is a different like cow and horse. So if the barley seed and sprout is different like cow and horse, and the barley seed should be relatively exist during the barley sprout. Barley sprout must exist during the barley seed, because these two are substantially separate. Right? So if the barley seed and sprout is not substantially separate, like a cow and horse, and then what is the separations? The separation is not done by barley seed and the sprout. The separation is barley seed and sprout. The separation is conceptually distincted, two separate entities. The separations are made by thought. So there's a conventional, conceptually distinctive. Seed and sprout is different. Separate is conceptually distincted, two separate phenomena. So this is not known as a different, is a distincted two entity made by language and thought. Right? Likewise, size of the head and the head. Likewise, empty of the space and the space. Right? So these are all conceptually conceived, constructed in your mind as a two separate entity, not because of empty and space by themselves, they kind of manifest as two different phenomena. Right? So like the body and size of the bodies, and leaves and the color of the color of the leaves. So exactly the same barley seed and sprout as a separate, like a leaf and the color of the leaf. So both are conceptually distincted, two separate phenomena. So I think that's because when the person who planted the seed of the tree, and then the tree comes out from that seed, the person will say, I planted seed. Right? I planted seed. So I plant that seed. Right? People more likely said, I plant that seed. So pointing at the tree and then say, I plant that seed. So, and he also obvious that, whatever the tree comes from, that seed that he planted is obviously separate, and the time is different time. But he has no notion of the tree comes from that seed, and planting the seed of that tree is two different phenomena. So cause and effect is no different, and this very life of the person is no different from the past life. So anything that you are experiencing as a consequence of karma that you committed in the past life, so I create that karma, now I'm experiencing the consequence of the karma, because I did it. So what you sow, what you reap. Right? So you did it and you face it. So otherwise, if you say that person has done that, now I have to face the consequences. Right? So almost like, two different persons. So then the karma would, dissipate. So karma that committed by other person is dissipate. Is dissipation for him because he is not going to experience anything karma that he's committed because he's not going to face the consequence of the karma because the next person, next life is different person. So now first negating the differential of cause and effect, past and present and the futures, seed and the sprout. So here the objection to the assertion that worldly perceptions invalidate the refutations of the arising from others. So minority schools, medieval ultimately all agree. So when things arises from others. So in the root text, there's if ordinary perceptions constitute the valid knowledge, suchness will be seen by the common folk. So ordinary perception constitute the valid knowledge, suchness will be seen by the common folk. What need for the āryas then? Oh, no, this one. Sorry. I'm sorry, yeah. This is repelling objection from the worldly perceptions on the basis that arising from others does not exist, even in the worldly conventions. So far, we have rejected there being any problems refuting arising from others. From the perspective of the world, even if one were to allow, for the sake of argument, arising from others from the standpoint of worldly conventions, we will now explain how, given that arising from others does not exist even within the perception of the world, there can be no invalidate coming from the world, even for the someone who wishes to negate arising from others while remaining within the worldly view. So this is stated by the following. So in the root text, this is in everyday experience, a man who simply left the seed claim, I fathered this son, or thinks, I planted this tree. So arising from other does not exist, even from the perspective of worldly, everyday world, which means mundane perceptions. So this seems big argument between the Prasangika school and the rest of the school thought. So the rest of the school is, today is the different from yesterday. And the present is different from, different from the past, and the future will be different. This people may say that, right? Future will be different from the present. When the future happens, it says this is different from the past. So what is the Prasangika school saying? The future is no different from the present. Present is no different from past. So I think what is there in their mind when they say the present is no different from the past means the past is, when the past thing, that is, when it ceased, what is manifest, the present is manifest. The present is, is a continuity of the things that is already past.
So when this is the continuity of the things that already passed, which means the Prasangika school in their mind says, you see, this is no different from what has passed. So why this is no different from what has passed? Because everything that's done within the past, this has manifested. As the result of in the process of the past, this happened. So this is the result of that, like yogurt coming from the milk. So like building the house, first the foundations, and then building up the walls and the ceilings and the windows, and then as a result you have a complete house. So that house is the result of the process. Right? So this process is never stopped between the result. There is no gap, right? So the complete house is the result of that process. Therefore, complete house is no different from all this processing. So then the Sonadic school, Minor school, and Middle Autonomous school says the process is happened in a different time. The complete house is different in a different time. And then the size, the colors, everything is different from the one that in the processing. So in that way, you say the person last night he was sleeping in the bed, and morning the person who has wake up has to be different from one who is slept, because he slept at night, right? Yesterday night, and this person wake up in this morning. So sometimes people may think, oh, this is not really significant argument. There's not much significance in there. So I think this whole come to Prasangika school. So there's two kind of separate. One is a substantial, physically separate. One is the separations that is constructed, fabricated by the thought. Two separate. So the cause and effect, separation of cause and effect, is so considered to be conceptually constructed separate entity, not the physically separate. So the cause and effect in the morning, when you are cooking, making a breakfast, and one who is having a breakfast has to be different. So these two are the separations in a different time is not, there's no substantially, so not objectively being separate, right? So the separation happened and then the identified in a separate time, and the separation is conceptually, kind of identifying it separate. So there's distinctions of the, one who is cooking and one who's having, the kind of breakfast or the lunch is a conceptual. In conceptual, it appears two separate time, two separate things. So the separation is a conceptually distincted separate phenomena. So if you say that, then there's not much, big difference, because the Prasangika, there's kind of, Prasangika school and the medieval autonomous school and minor only school, they also think, so yourself, the past of yourself and the present of yourself is not, not completely different like cow and horse. So they also agree on that. The yesterday yourself and today yourself is not like cow and horse. So they also say that. Now the question is, if you, yes, this is not like horse and cow, which means you are agreeing it is the, it is the one single continuity. So one single continuity. So the idea of coming from, so means this is, coming from means, so there is the act of coming of this, the result that happened prior to the result itself. The coming of the Monday is happened before the Monday. The coming of the Sunday is already happened yesterday. So there is, if you think that this is coming from, there is the different, So which means you are the coming of the today that already happened before the today. So which means there is something substantial entity which is coming but not came yet. So as a result of these imaginations, and then we tend to think that, the Bali sprout, before the manifestation, erosion of the Bali sprout, and the coming of the Bali sprout has already happened in the past. Right? So which means there is some kind of Bali sprout hidden during the seed. So which kind of, enables you to think that, whatever happened in the present time with the process, coming of this thing is already started before it. So then we think that, oh, this is like, 3 times, it's like one single entity is constantly repeating, it repeatedly arises. So this was there in the past, now it is repeating in the present, it will continue repeating in the future. So this gives you the idea of the permanent entity. So the soul or the Atma that is repeatedly existing in a different form, and physical, in the human form, and the animal form, of the God form, right? So that one thing is constantly existing, never changes. So you have a permanent I. So to refute this, and Prasangika schools thinks it is very, very, important to negate the differential of cause and effect. Concept of the difference, by negating, refuting it, is not going to harm any mundane conventional.
When you say refuting cause and effect,
Not saying refuting cause and effect, the differential of the cause and effect. So why would we refute cause and effect?
Maybe as being different.
Yeah, cause and effect as a different is refuted. So it helps you, it makes you easier to understand, oh, this is not different. This is the one that, continue from the past. So again, yes, the result is the continued from the past, or the continuity of the past. So then say, when the result happened, there is no cause for the result to coming from. When the result has already happened, right? So when today is a Sunday, so there is no Monday to Sunday to come from. So the coming from is already, disappears. It doesn't exist. Because when the Sunday is really happened, actually it has happened. There is no Monday. So when there is no Monday, there is no Monday to Sunday come from. So, which means there is no arising of the Sunday during the Sunday. So now, so what by negating that there is no arising of the Sunday, there is no coming of the Sunday from the Monday during the Sunday, or within the Sunday. So now then the question is, so the arising of the Sunday is the future of the Sunday. So this is still the reality. When did it happen? So when was the time that arising of the Sunday, the future of the Sunday exist? So then say it never really exist during the Monday. It is also not impossible to happen during the Sunday. So then said, what is that? This is the conceptually fabricated entity. The coming of the future is a conceptually fabricated entity. If the coming of the Sunday is a conceptually fabricated entity, then the coming is a conceptually constructed. The entity is an imposed entity, is a projected entity. So which means this is not substantial. So if this is not substantial, coming from the present, coming from the past is mental projection. Right? So mental projection, but it is relatively, yes, this can exist because Sunday has happened, Monday had happened. So there is the basis to create this kind of, the idea of coming of the Sunday. So this coming of the Sunday is ideally it exists depending upon Monday that is, Monday that is happened and it is disintegrating, and Sunday is happened right now. So from these two, the coming is relatively exist. So because of that, so transmigration, sentient being transmigrate, or the cycling in samsara, again, that is conceptual. So the samsara is conceptual, so therefore the suffering in the conceptions, the samsara is also conceptual. So this is why there is the possible of, attainment of the liberations. There is the possible to ending the cyclic existence. If in the present time you have, totally the abide or observe in the absence of intrinsic natures. Right now you have stopped the cyclic existence because the cycling in the cycle is the cycling is concept. So if the cyclic existence is not the concept, and there is a suffering, there's a suffering that intrinsically, inherently exists. There is the hell realm that intrinsically exists. There's the god realms or the animal realms are intrinsically exist. So so the guide to the Bodhisattva says, so if there is physically, there's a place that you can locate it. There's the hell realms, and who's managed this hell realm? If there's hell realm, there's a burning fires. Who started that fires? What do they use to continue the fire? Do they use coal, right? Or do they use the petrol or diesel or so wood? What kind of fuel they use to continue the burning? So where do they supply? Do they have to buy this supply to make the continuity of fire? So then again says it's just a concept. The Ram is the concept. So people say the God Ram, heavens is pointing at the sky. Is ideally they're pointing at the sky. So if physically the distance, all the realms, then 45 days after the death is not enough to travel, to the different realms. Some realm must be very, very far, different planets. Even by the plane, it takes, maybe millions day to reach there. So we said within 45 days after death, so people will find people will find a new rebirth. So 45 is not enough. So anyway, saying now the question to the Prasanga schools is, another question is, so if the present is no different from the past, so does that mean the very entity in the present, is actually one that existing within the past? This may question, right? We may question is if Sunday is no different from the Monday, so was Sunday yesterday is Saturday, right? Was Saturday yesterday? If Sunday is Saturday yesterday, then this is like the same persons who's wearing a jacket, and right after that he was wearing long coat, and he's wearing t-shirt. The same person is coming. So in that means again the Prasanga school is also thinking the entity is the permanent. The Prasanga school says the present is no different from the past. Present is not identical with the past. It's not identical, no different. So what it leaves as the residue is, the present is no different from the past. Present is not identical with the past, right? So then what it is? So which means the past happened to exist, and it processing, it leaves all the seeds and the cause what may happen in the future, and then that thing is ceased to exist. So as a result of that action that is done with the past, now this has manifest. Therefore, the present is no different from the past, not identical with the past. Like yourself is no different from the physical body, and you are not the body. Like the fires that the not different from the fuel, but not different. Fire is not a fuel. So then, so if there is nothing that the present is no different from the past, no identical with the past, so what does that mean? Not identical, no different from it, which means, there is the continuity. One happened, and anything that is born out of cosmic conditions and the process in the nature to disintegrate, and one is disintegrate, it leaves the seed. It kind of give rise something similar, type of that. So every result is the type of the cause. The cause is not there to be compared as a different or not different. Right. So the Prasanga school, which means, the cause is, the result happened because of the disintegration of this cause. And so which means it is not permanent. And the result is happened because of the cause, which means is the continuity. It's continued, but no permanent. So it continues, no permanent. So it gives you the, again, there's as a continuity, no permanent means, so everything is changing, instantly changing. So the changing is not done by the weathers, not done by other person's actions. Changing is done by things, which are changing with their actions, their emotions. So if you bake bread, so the process changing, so the changing is done by the actions and then the actions or the functions. If you put, the continuity is the baking the bread is too much heat, it will turn black, and it's it's the how's that? Uh, the temperature of the heat is low or equal, and exact time if you take the bread out, then it was brown and it was eatable. So it's all happening yesterday from this morning to the noon time. Yourself is also like that. What you're doing, what you're thinking is making yourself in the present. The present, what you're doing, what you're thinking is making yourself in the tomorrow. So whatever happened, yourself happening in the tomorrow is not identical with what is doing right now, but no different from it. So the Prasangika school rejecting that differential of the cause and effect, cause being different from the effect being different from the cause. Why is it that in everyday experience a man points to another person's with male characteristic and claim, I fathered this son? Though he may claim this, the father has not extracted from his body a person with full male features and somehow implanted him into the womb of the mothers. What is then? He has simply left or placed the mere seed of the son, and so an impure substance inside the mother's womb. So the fathers, having placed the cause of the son inside sons, point to someone to be his son. This clearly proves that within the everyday experience of the world, people do not conceive the seed and the son to be intrinsically different. So even from the perspective of the everyday world, grasping at the impure seed and the son as well as the barley seed and its sprout as arising from other doesn't exist. Arising from other doesn't exist. For were these conceived as a different by virtue of their own essence, the father would not point to his son and claim, I produce it, or any more than the different persons. Within relation to that son, similarly, when someone plants the mere seed of the tree and a tree grows from it, he thinks, I plant this tree. In relation to this explained too, one should reflect as above, there is no arising from others within the perspective of the everyday world, and so on. Although the two seeds and the planted are not the tree and sun, when a tree or sun is born as a result of having planted either of these two seeds, one can point to one or another claim legitimately, I planned this. So, analogously, although a hand that is injured and healed is not actually the person's, one can legitimately say the person has been injured and healed when his hand was injured and healed. So this was saying, when you got injured in your hand, or it injured me, I am not well, right? When your body is not well, say you are not well. But at the same time, you are not identical with the body, but with the body, you can say, I'm injured. And when the body cures, I'm cured, I'm healed. So, so even in the conventional world, there is no in the mundane. They do not really they do not grasp the body and yourself, person, as a two different thing, and hand and the person also not two different things. They do not grasp. So grasping on differential is philosophically, what you call imputed misconception. Is extra misconception. So we all have misconception, but this is, is editing up more misconceptions. So yeah, thus the arising from others does not exist within the convention of the everyday world, but that does not mean that the existence of the arising from other can be negated through everyday world perceptions. So now say the cause and effect as a different is not accept, not grasping by the mundane world, but mundanes do not, mundanes also not capable of negating that. This is the way, a very, very, how's that, very significant things, because mundanes do not accept, yourself today and yesterday are different, but mundane perceptions has no ability to negate. So you're being different from yesterday yourself. So to negate that, and then you have to, how's that, gain the ultimate natures. You have to understand emptiness. So this is why it's kind of, negating intrinsic difference of cause and effect, intrinsic different of cause and effect, and negating the arising of the futures as intrinsic. So that you need the realization of emptiness. So what do you think? This, so saying that, sprout is no different from the seed. And most of the school says, yes, the sprout is different from the seed. Because they says, if the sprout is no different from the seed, then there is no concept of sprout is coming from this, right? It coming from that seed. So the pointing at the tomato, this tomato is particularly coming from this type of seed, because this tomato is round and that tomato is long or somewhere round. It's a different shape. So then you says this tomato is particularly coming from this particular seed. So the except the Prasangya school, they says there is, you say, this is coming from that. So which means this should be different from that. So there is, they have reason. They have reason. Now the question is your reason is, some you call, sometimes tanna means fact-similar, or it is actual. It looks the reasoning, but it has no valid. There is no valid reasoning.
So substantial causes. So the two separations are conceptual, which are within continuity, and that's
two separations. The barley seed and sprout. The separation of barley seed and sprout is here at the Prasangika school is conceptual.
And then substantial is they have two separate continuations. So therefore, but even those continuations are like in and of themselves not.
No, the barley seed and the barley sprout is the continuities. Mm-hmm. So that continuity is except Prasangika school, minor school, middle, or there also is continuity. Mm-hmm. And now they're saying the Prasangika school says, yes, the barley sprout is the continuity of the barley seed, but they are no different. And the Sautrantika school, middle autonomic school says, barley sprout is no different from barley seed. So barley sprout is the continuity of the barley seed. So there's a coming from. So therefore, there's a from. It is coming from. Therefore, it has to be different. So now you see what is in their mind when they say, because there's a coming from, because it is a continuum. So therefore it has to be different. Prasangika school says, yes, it is a continuum, but no different.
So it sounds like all schools agree that there is substantial difference, but they disagree when it comes to the conceptual.
No, the substantial difference is other than the Prasangika school, there's also a substantial difference, because the difference is made from the physical barley seed and the barley sprout, tree seed and the tree. So there's physically there's the difference. Right. Now, Prasangika school says, yes, if you say when you bring one tree seed and then you bring another tree together, then if you ask me, it is different or not, then I would say, yes, it is different. But when you plant the seed has changes. It ceases to exist. As a result, the tree comes. Then I cannot say this tree is a different from seed that you have planted. Right? If you bring all together, so this is the different tree seed, this is the different tree, and physically in the present time you put together. So if you ask me, is it different or not? Now I would say different. But one seed you planted, the seed that has ceased to exist, as a result, tree comes. So then this tree is not, we are not going to say it's different from the seed that you have planted for the tree. So when you say you have a yogurt here, one bowl of the yogurt, one bowl of the milk put together, physically there's a together, then I would say, yes, this yogurt and this milk is different. But when you ferment it, right? When you boil the milk and then you just fermented it, in the morning it turned into yogurt. So whatever the turn into yogurt is, we are not going to say is different from yesterday milk, right? Is that if there is a two things physically together, we will say definitely like a table and a chair, like a cow and a horse. We'll say we're different. So Now, this is not just argument. This is not just arguing and point of views, because they're saying, Prasangika school says, when you think the barley seed and sprout are different. So if you follow this difference, like, physical difference, the physical difference, what we see is the table and chair, cow and horse. So in this way, you're making how's it different? The barley sprout is different from the barley seed. Then there is the problem. So the problems, because this is physically, substantially, by nature is two different things, like a horse and a cow, but one comes from another. So there is, there is the kind of, what you call the access to misguide and mislead. So this is also fit for the non-Buddhist school. We believe in the self as a permanent. So the permanent self is, in my previous life, he was with another body, in this life with another body. So which means the body is the different, the person is exactly the same, never changed. He was having that body, now this body. So there's something that continues, but the nature is permanent. So that is impossible. So in that case, when the previous person, past life person, when he died, and the body turned into ashes, so from the ashes, the person has to come out from the dead body. There's a person is coming out, and the extract from the dead body. It says, now my body has died. I'm going to have another body. So now the question is, there is the time you are thinking that the person without the body, without aggregates. Without the aggregates, without the fuel, you have found this, there is the possible of fire. Fire, once it can, physically different from the fuel. If there is the fire that is a physically different from, separate from the fuel, then that fire should burn forever, because the burning fire of that is never relying on the fuel. So if there is the person between death and birth, without aggregates, one aggregate has, previous aggregates all died, it ceased to exist. Now this is, without that aggregate, he is going to continue to have another body, another aggregates. So this person in itself always identified by depending upon the aggregates. This has no basis to identify it. He is going, there is no big body to go. He is seeing, there's no perception to identify it. He is, he is feeling happy. There is no any feeling to identify he is happy or not happy. So the no basis identified self is intrinsic, independent, and ultimate self. So there is no such thing in the world that anything without without depending on any other factors. So the Prasangika schools, there is some kind of the loophole that for the minority school and the middle ordinary school, that that part that's more likely to lead to misinterpretations. So this is why the Prasangika schools, the best thing is saying, the barley sprout is no different from the barley seed. Yogurt is no different from its, previous milk. But At the same time, barley sprout is not identical with the barley seed. The yogurt is not identical with the milk, yesterday milk. And yourself in this life is not identical with your past life and no different from the past life. So from this, it stopped the excess of misguiding or misinterpretation. And there's a question that comes from that. So then how do we know what is continuing? The only question that's left is this. So this present life is no different from the past life, not identical, and no different, no identical. Then I have my whole habituation says continuity means, continuity means there's a something, something that is, without having been changed coming from the past. In the Prasangika school, there is no such continuity. Right? There is no continuity. One things that remain permanently unchanged and it travels through the time. So the continuity means one thing, like in previous life, the person in the previous life, and his emotional and his actions is designing what he's going to be in the future. And then whole the process, the action and emotions has ceased to exist. And then as a result, that new life has come. So new life is the result of the previous life, the emotional and the actions. So there is no need for this life to go there in the past, coming from it. Or you have to go back to the past life to, get the permission. So can I get the consequences of what you have done? No. So this is the pure result of what previous life the person has done and think. So that is the only reason that this is our understanding of continuity. Right. So the Sunday, by process of time, is changing, disintegrating in the midnight and 12 o'clock, and then that Sunday has ceased to exist. And next second, next minute, it has become Monday. So the Monday is no need to physically come from the past, come from the Sunday. So if the Monday is no need to come from physically from the Sunday, but still Monday is continued the Sunday, and why not? This life, the person, is no need to come from physically, come from the past life, but having been a reason is the result of the previous life. So this is the continuity of previous life. So the continuity is not one single entity is constant happening or repeating. So I think the non-Buddhist school who believes in Atma is so the interpretation of the the continuity means for them and one single entity, permanent nature, is repeatedly happening. So Buddha Valida mentioned this is like this continuity of that is idea like Mr. Gupta, yesterday he's coming from his village, now he's going to return to his village. So the one person is coming from village or is returning back to the village. So in this way, if you think every continuity, so then there's a one single entity, a single entity. It never really change, never really change. It is all permanent, but that's repeatedly happening. And he's wearing different clothes. So that idea, that concept is totally, lack of reasoning and logic. So in this way, if you think apply it to every phenomena, and then tomato has said, this tomato was there during the seed. Right? So because tomato is coming from the seed, tomato should be exist physically there within the seed because the tomato is coming from the seed. Right? So if I say I'm coming from the airport, I was there physically there at the airport. So if your interpretation of the continuity is like that, the continuity is something physically repeating one thing. So Sankhya school thinks that therefore Sankhya school push to kind of the accept, say the body sprout must exist during the body seed, and then says it's a hidden form. It's in hidden form, and some who believes in the creators, everything comes from the Bhagavan or the creators, and then this is this tomato was there before this tomato seed happened. Now tomato is already there before the tomato seed. This boy was there before his mother has born. So that kind of extreme, view. So if you understand from the Prasangika schools the point of views of the continuity, and then it is also observed that some people grieve or remorse, kind of very emotionally, very strongly about what I have done yesterday. And some people feel very shame and something had happened yesterday. So they also thinking the yesterday and today is right now in the present time. So they have emotionally attached to the different of yesterday and today, and physically different. So in this case, everything you have done by remembering, you feel shame, and all the Buddhas, has omniscience to remember countless life, and sometimes they feel shame they have done something, So there must be some Buddhists like reading like this. So so there is no continuity, has no nature of any intrinsic quality or no permanent nature. So like yesterday, the morning and noon and evening and night, and then and then you sleep, and morning you wake up. And again this morning, and then afternoon and noon. So always happening. If you regret that, oh, I haven't done something in the daytime, you can do it today. If you regret tomorrow that I haven't done something in daytime, you can do it again daytime. So there's always, every night there is, next day there's the morning. So there's nothing to regret and nothing to, remorse from, from the past. So maybe another question that you may raise, if there's no regret, then people will do anything they want. That is also not happening because you see it's everything happening in the future as a result of what you're doing right now. So this should be, this should be the condition that resent you to doing anything bad, because otherwise you have to face the consequences of it. Yeah, some people also, feel grief, and even the person, the loved one has died 15 years ago, but still, when they remember this name or picture, they cry. So that's, the emotionally you are really seeing all this past is a substantial existence.
If someone is truly believing Prasadika's point of view on continuum, that means that person does not experience this kind of emotion.
Yeah, I think, truly believe in the following and completely, the observe in the absolute intrinsic existence is two different things. So truly believe means you are philosophically, you are logically, you follow the Prasanga school, but you have many, 70%, 60% of still there's a continuity of habituations. So if you completely stop these habituations from the misconceptions, which means you are enlightened. Like we are, people says that, what is the scientist that says we are coming from chimpanzee, right? So when we are chimpanzee, we always do like this, right? So we forgot this. So we continuously, thousand, billions, the years, we continuously in that, and then the habits has changed. So the arising from other does not exist within the convention of the everyday world, but that does not mean that existing of the arising from other can be negated through the everyday world perceptions. So this is because one must probe with nature of the suchness to negate the cause and the effect being different entities by virtue of their own intrinsic natures. Therefore, the sense of arising from others asserted by the proponents of the other philosophical school is this: arising from something that is other by virtue of intrinsic characteristic. It is not, it is of mere otherness, is not established from the everyday world perspective. Now the statements, so other arising does not exist, even from the perspective of the everyday world, should not be confined to mean solely that ordinary people of the world do not grasp the substantial cause of the effect. A seed and the sprout, for example, to be different by virtue of intrinsic characteristic, these lines also demonstrate how arising from other does not exist, even on the conventional level. For example, the commentary says in this section on the refutation of arising from both. So the mundanes have, mundanes naturally they think, their things. The today's the yogurt is no different from yesterday milk, right? But at the same time, if the mundanes were told, so if someone trying to, uh, to brainwash them. So we can, from the Sautrantika school point of views, minority school point of views, medieval autonomous school, they're all together, convince the mundane, says yesterday milk was sweet and it is liquid, and there is no solid. And today the yogurt is solid and not sweet, it's sour. So it should be different. So mundane also agree on that. So mundane is easily you can use it. So naturally what they see is no difference. And if there were kind of reason, and to believe in there's a difference, and they also follow the difference. Right. So they are like dominoes. If you go like this, both way you can beat up. So yeah. So there's the yeah. So just as it has been shown how arising from self and arising from other are untenable on the level of worldly convention, as well as on the level of ultimate truth. Likewise, to those who speak of arising from both too, the argument stated above demonstrate it is to be impossible. So this is also, there is no additional reasoning to convince them. So there's no the need for any additional reasoning. The same reason you can apply, kind of convince the Jainism school. So Jainism thinks that when the person died with aggregates. His body is die with body, and there's things that the two persons, two self, one self die with the body, one self leave the body and find another body. So is this? There is no need another reasoning to convince them. So just simply need to prove them or kind of convince them the continuity does not mean about one single entity repeating. So continue, there is no single entity needed to repeat or continuity means one thing sees the type the result to manifest is the continuity. Right? There is no need coming from past to the present. Right? Nothing comes from the past to the present. Nothing goes from the present to the future. But the future is continuity of the present. Present is the continuity of the past. So thus the non-existing of arising from other, even on the conventional level, has been stated explicitly in clear words 2, in response to the questions if there is no arising of things from other themselves, from others, from both, and from no cause. How is it that the Buddha taught the condition by ignorance there is volitions, right? Volition. Chandrakirti writes that let me explain this is on the conventional level, not on the level of suchness. So thus he explained how the, how's that? Engendering of the volitions by ignorance and so on is on the conventional level, not on the ultimate level. So when the Buddha says due to ignorance, there is, how's that, actions. Out of ignorance, there's action. Action is, continuity of the ignorance, but it's not repeating. action is not ignorance. Action is continuity of the ignorance. And there is the continuity from that action as the consciousness. There's the continuity as a consciousness, as a name and form. There's a name of continuity of the name and form as a faculties, the continuity from the faculty as a contact, feeling, craving, grasping, process of becoming, and again birth and aging and death. The whole continues the 12 links, dependent originations. So none of them are identical, no different. So like compassions, the great compassion, first generating great compassions as a result of the compassions that the Bodhisattva or enlightened mind. So enlightened mind is the continuity of the compassion, not identical with the compassion, nor is different from the compassion. So the compassions as a result, realization, emptiness, and the first bhumi, and the second bhumi, and third bhumi, fourth bhumi, fifth bhumi, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and the Buddhahood. So Buddhahood is still not different from the 10th bhumi. It's not identical with the 10th bhumi, but it's a continuity from the 10th bhumi as a result in the Buddhahood. Right? So the liberation is the continuity of the second existence, not identical with the second existence, no different from the second existence. Right? So before the sentient beings were cycling in samsara due to the misconceptions, the reason, the condition that cycles the sentient beings has ended or eliminated, and that become the liberated being. So the liberated being is no different from one who was cycling due to the misconceptions, nor he is identical with the second existence of the sentient beings. So liberation in the sentient being is very similar, like a person who is in the nighttime, he was sleeping, morning he's wake up. So one who was sleeping, with no function of sensual perceptions, and morning the sense faculties that manifest and arises in engage an object. So the person who is seeing things, smelling things, hearing things, and no different from one who is not seeing, not smelling, nor hearing in the nighttime. So this is why so I think that sometimes people make different the samsara being and this Buddhahood, or liberated being in the second existence, and then they feel gap between you and Buddha. So there are different type of people, right? So sometimes some people may have doubt that, or if I speak in Tibetan language, he may not understand. So I should find the language he speaks. So to convey what you are praying to, right? So some people, some English speaker thinks that, if I pray in English, Buddha may not understand Buddha. So that's how the different is changing in your mind. Concept of different, because you see in the language's difference. This is how the people see, like natural in the animals, that because of the size, the shape, the color, the difference, they always suspect. They see there's no relation. There's no possible relation. So no evolution is still with us, So we're evolving in some way in the physical, but mentally not really evolving. because of the concept of the different. So yeah, that difference. Now another question raised from that, from the descriptions of why things cause and effect no different. So it implies to some people think, oh, so cause and effect is no different like cow and horse. So does that mean cow and horse are intrinsically different? And again, it says no. Cow is not intrinsically different from the horse. So there is the differential of the cow and horse as a dependent upon both. So without one existing of one, there is no other being different. Right? If the cow is not exist, horse has no different from the cow. If the horse is not exist, cow being different from the horse does not exist.
It seems almost contradictory when I'm going back through it, because they say that there has to be some continuity of something that continues on.
Yeah.
And yet at the same time, they say that the barley seed and the barley sprout are intrinsically different. And so it seems contradictory that I don't know if that makes sense. It just sounds like it's almost like, oh, there has to be something that continues on. Well, but both of them are also different because they're very clear.
So it's almost like the barley seed and the barley sprout are intrinsically different, but barley sprout is continued from barley seed. So can I be continued from yourself, right? Because we are different, intrinsically, right? Different. So in this case, horse is no continuity of the, cow that, when it says the horse and the cow who's together physically in one place, this horse is continued with that cow, so we cannot say, right? So as I mentioned, when physically the two things together, one is not continued with the others. So one, one, the disintegration of one as a result, another thing's arisen. So that is the continuity of that thing, but there is no identical, there is no different. So one manifests, one has ceased to exist, non-existence. So this, because of when you look into the non-existent of the other side, there is no place to think it is the different from that. Right? Like when the cow does not exist, there's no possible seeing this horse is different from that cow. So that there is no cow. So similarly, when the sprout is manifest, you cannot see this sprout is being different from that seed. So you cannot physically compare because the both cannot exist simultaneously at the time. So that is the one reason. Another thing is this seed has ceased to exist as a result this manifest. Everything that is you have pour fertilizers, any condition in that seed is all manifest in this sprout. So from this perspective, you cannot see this sprout has been different from that seed. Right. So so in this way, the difference is different of the differential cause and effect as a negated or refuted, and it gives you the pure definition of the continuity. So continuity does not mean one single entity repeating and coming again and again. So the Prasanga school, but Buddha Pali from the beginning, the first page, it's a lion means reappearing, re-arising, repeating is negated. There is no conditional things. It's repeating and reappearing, re-arising. But at the same time, the language we use reincarnations, rebirth, right? Young Sivalimbas. So that is not referring one entity, single entities, the very single entity that sees is reappearing. So saying that once again you are in samsara. Once again you are in samsara. Right? So that is the reincarnations. Once again, before you are in samsara, now you die, again you are in samsara. So that is a reincarnation, reborn, rebirth. Right? It's not repeating, it's not referring to any repeating of any entity. Yeah, any questions? So I think this is very similar when the people like senate together, they make the laws. So they're always looking for the loophole. So they kind of blind spots. So then people find this blind spot, they just work on that place. So the Sotantika school, minor school, they are very much, by using the reasoning, and they kind of come trying to the constitute the path, actual path to lead to the liberation and enlightenment. The reason they use logic that use is not really 100% valid. So because the logic that you use is 100% valid, therefore there is the loophole. So saying, although the barley sprout is, barley sprout is not identical, they are different because the time is different, the color size is different, and this sprout is coming from that. So therefore there is other. But at the same time, this barley sprout is the continuity of that seed. So when before you said the barley sprout and barley seed are different, and the difference in the time, different in the size, different in the color, and you have kind of characterized something substantially. They're two different things. And then after that, this sprout is continuity of the body seed. So the Prasanga school take this. Oh, this is really kind of obvious contradictions. This is the continuity, and then these two are like completely two different things, like cow and horse. At the same time, you're saying this is the continuity of the body seed. So then the another which the possible loophole is so people may think, oh, barley seed and sprout is a different, right? Difference in the time, the color, and size, and the qualities, right? So many things are different, and one is cause, one is the effect. That makes it very huge difference. There has to be in the two different different entity, different phenomena. So then people may think, oh, so if this is the continuity of that, so this must be continue from that. So therefore, the Bali sprout has to be there with the Bali seed to continue from it. Like when you come from another platform, the train, and it has to be there in that platform, from that to come here. So because it's coming from it, so there's many, you have open, kind of the avenues to misinterpret in many ways. So the Prasangika school says from the beginning, the sprout is no different from the barley seed. Sprout is no different from the seed, not identical. So the one only question raised from this, right? So, and then what is the continuity? It's no different, not identical. And I have no, you put in a position that is now I cannot think, imagine this sprout is continued from the barley seed. So then it says that continue does not mean one entity, a single entity, repeating. One ends, another manifests. As a result of that, entity has ended. So that is the continuity. So the everyday is continuity of the past day. So it does not mean that this day was once exists in that previous day. So any other questions? So this same logic we can, apply in the argument towards the Jainisms. Jainisms was, view the two self. One self die with aggregates, one self goes without the aggregates. Right? So there is no self of the person without the aggregates. There is no self of the person without any factors, to identify there is a self. Right? If there is a self, he has a feeling, he must have when he says going, there's some kind of form, or he is smelling, there's some kind of form, the sense faculties. Right? He is feeling happy, not happy, and suffering or happy. So there's aggregates. Without the aggregates, there is no self could exist as an entity. Entity means identified. Identified means you need the factors to identify something, right? So the entity identified or, constructed entity, identified entity, or fabricated identified entity, or through the language and the letter and identified as entity. So which means is made up entity. So anything that's constructed, made up, fake, fabricated, the entity is known as unreal. Right? So that dharma means is, I think the actual descriptions of dharma is conceptually identified entity is the dharma. Right? So Dara is a holding identity. The identity is not held by identity itself. Rather, it is a given identity. Right? through the concept of the language. So created, constructed entity is known as the Dharma. So the practicing Dharma and following Dharma means, so knowing that every entity is constructed and fabricated, and with that kind of view and seeking for the liberations, supposed to have the quality of harmony and the freedom from the afflictive emotions. Right? So the Ramayana and the Bhagavad, the dharmas, they're called dharma. So that is more as the right actions. It's not similar in the where the Buddhists identified as dharma. So they always say dharma. So dharma is right actions. So right action is the positive, and then the tiger who kills an animal is the right actions. So what he has created as a tiger, and by killing other animal, is the right action. So they use, this could be applied. So the right action of the soldier to kill another person, another soldier, an enemy, is also become dharma. Because you are designed to go and war and to kill other enemy. Right? So every design is designed by the creator, and then your right action is to kill enemy. So this will continuously misguide you. That then says there is the Brahmins whose right action is to do the puja and recite the sutras. And then there is another caste, the royal caste, whose right actions, dharma, is to protect the people and to punish the bad people. And then the lower caste, who is in ordinary people, so their dharma is to perform the functions, perform the field and farming. And then when one another caste who's designed to butcher, so everything become action, all the actions become the dharma. So this very, very poor interpretation of dharma. So the dharma or the dharmas, the dharma is in Tibetan chi, is the notion, identity is constructed. It is played by your thought. So having that kind of view and seeking for the liberations should bring the peace and harmony. So that's why I heard one of the Hindu philosopher, master, he says, so dharma is right action, right function, or natural actions, natural functions. So then he even the sugar has the religion. So he says the sweetness of the sugar is sugar's dharma. So the too much is too rough, too gross, the interpretations, which has never really helped you. I think the 90% of that is 90% that is misguide you. So usually dharma means holding, grasping, or having is the dhara. So dharma means now what you have hold and what you have defined, what you have identified, right? So from a Buddhist perspective, what you have identified through the thought and language. So that is constructed, the entity, defined entity. So who defines it? What defines that? Your thought and language defines. So there is no essence within the identity by virtue of their own essence. It is a given, right? Identity is a given, right? So which means Rangya Ngawon Zemba in the Tibetans. So it's more like, identity that a holding is rather given by the thought and the languages. Yeah. So identity of monk, identity of layperson, identity of male or female, identity of manager or employee or employer, identity of carpenter or the potter. So all the identity is given by languages, letters, and thoughts. So I think that makes us find more easier to change things. If everything is constructed, then we can change. If everything is by virtue of their own essence, so there's nothing we can change. So respond to the questions, thus explain how the engendering the violations of the ignorances on the conventional level, not on the ultimate level. Then in the response to the questions, what kind of presentation of the conventional truth you are speaking of, Chandrakirti replies, we accept the establishment of the conventional truth in terms of mere conditionedness, not on the basis of the adhering to any of four positions. So thus he clearly explained how is accepting the arising of this, from that condition on the conventional level, he does not adhere to the arising from one of the four possible possibilities. So the arising, so the assertions some make, assertions, right? So the assertions some make that this tradition of the Chandrakirtis does not reject arising from others on the conventional level is a statement that does not understand this system properly. So the four possibilities. So if something has arises, the first possibility is it arises by itself, or it arises from others, or it arises from both self and others, or it arises from no cause. So the four chronology, four possible is negated. So nothing arises by itself, nothing arises from others, Nothing arises from both. Nothing arises from no cause. So then what is that arises? The arising is conventional, relatively. So relatively means it's not by itself, not by others, not from the both, not without cause, relatively. So relatively occur any identity, even the cause. The very identity of the cause is relatively arises, relatively, occur from the identity of the result. So from the children and identified as mothers. So the identity is relatively exist. Not the mother's inherently exists first, and she give birth to the child. Right. So, which means before the child, she was mother. So there is no mother before the child. So the mother is, mother is or having identity of the motherness of mother, because it is depending on the children. So the things that relatively exist. So nothing mother by herself become the mother. So then the 12 and the merit of negations. Yeah. Chanchu Simjo Rinpoche, Majeba na Jejuji, Jeba Nyamba Mewa Yin, Kone Kono Pewa, Tonye Dawa Rinpoche, Majeba na Jejuji, Jeba Nyamba Mewa, Kone Kono Pewa, Poma Simjen Samje Dedan Tejuji, Nyadro Tamje Tado Tongwa, the Chanchu Simba, Kona Suju, Tada Gunje Molom Drubju Roji, Kare Rabu Vishima, Penda Dewa Malun Jungwe, Jere Singwa Tenzin Jazu, Shabesi Deba Do Denjuruji.
May the precious holy mind, I get for horizon grow. May the born of Bodhisattva have increased forever. May the precious mind realizing emptiness, I get for horizon grow. May the born of Bodhisattva have increased forever. Due to all these merits, may all father and mother sentients have all happiness. May all lower realms be empty forever. Wherever there are Bodhisattvas, may all merits be accomplished immediately. In the sacred lands from the personal mind, you are the source of all benefit and happiness, all powerful change and interest. In making this world into samsara fit.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.